thermal imaging inside of a ghost hunt. So why would we want to use this when we're ghost hunting? It's interactive, guys, I promise.
Just to pick up on, I guess, on heat signatures?
Not heat, cold.
Oh, cold.
We're looking for cold spots. I know it's freezing out here. However, we're looking for blue and black. Obviously, you guys can see me in there, right? A red, orange, and yellow guy. That means I'm the warmest thing inside the video. So the person using this is going to try to keep one of us in view because we're the warmest thing out here, particularly our skin, which means our faces, because everything else is covered as I'm looking at you guys. But we're looking for blue and black to either start moving on its own or to take shape on its own. Normally, like, I'll be looking at this when I'm watching your video, and I'm really looking in the background to kind of see like what's actually happening. The other cool thing about your video that you're going to get back is there's a blue dot that's bouncing around the screen. It is showing you the coldest spot in the frame at that particular moment. So that way, when you guys are watching your video, it helps guide your eye. It also has the temperature next to it, and I keep a center crosshairs for, you know, an ambient temperature. I already know that it's going to be roughly around 39 degrees. I normally look for 15-degree temperature drop, so I'll be looking for anything 24 degrees and below that. So again, we're going to be doing a few starts and stops with this. This is a FLIR camera. This is the real deal. This is not a phone app, just so you guys know. This is what firemen use to actually help save people. They keep it in their pocket, toss it on their phone, and go into the burning building. So I'm going to stop the video. Just be mindful of the vehicles in here. People will be cutting through. Just don't go in between vehicles or basically be filming them for long periods of time. After I'm done with George, I'll basically be bouncing around with everybody. I'll do like 2 quick round robins in this location just so that we're quick and respectful. Just because Eliza seems to be, you know, more appreciative of that. Normally we would spend like 20 minutes here. I haven't been doing that lately because of the messages that have been coming through. So we'll see what's going on, and then I'll give you all of the answers to those questions, and then we will move on to our next space. All right, spread out, have some fun. If you want to hang out while I'm showing them this, you can. I know walking around a parking lot by yourself with an earbud in is kind of a weird thing to ask you to do. But have you guys heard anything, by the way?
I heard Monday.
Monday. I have a whole list of terms, but none of them seem relevant to me. We're already up to 10 terms, so very interesting. Fortune was one of them, but I don't have enough anything to say that was part of, you know, going to be a little bit more verifiable than that.
You hit a 2.4, but it wasn't a 2.5. So.
At least you've seen some numbers move.
But it was spiked. I mean, it went from like 0.9 to 1.6 to 2.4 and then back down.
I would say an average height of a spike in this location is 18 to 22 milligauss.
Okay.
So if you guys want to know like what those numbers mean real quick, I'll kind of quickly explain it. If you were to put that device behind your TV, it's going to be about 40 to 60 milligauss. So an average here is about 18 to 22, about half of that, half of being a starting rate where there's no electricity. We've seen that device go all the way well over 200 in this location, and those are dangerous levels. Your microwave runs about 150 to 170 when it's on high. We've seen it go all the way to 214, which is the highest I've ever seen that device go here at this location. I will tell you, we left. I have epilepsy. I'm not playing with electricity in the air with a neurological disorder. So again, we left pretty quickly. I gave them the answers later. So again, it was not something we're going to play around with. All right, let's spread out. And now that you've seen some numbers move around, go ahead and pull up your antenna. Let's talk about that motion sensor, because this is the first space we'll actually use it. Turn your device around to where you can see the back of it. It's a little difficult with that glove on. I'll help you out. There's a little two white buttons back there.
Yeah.
The one on the right is the one you want. Click it into the device. Go all the way in. Perfect. So you got it. Yep. Oh, you had it. I think you pushed it back out. So you got to wait till it goes flush. See how it goes flush at the back? Okay. You got to turn the device around slowly. It's going to flash every time you move because it's based off of motion. Okay. So all these little green ones, I don't write any of those down. But there's a whole array of color in there, so kind of watch it.
Oh, yeah.
So again, you start getting blues, yellows, purples. Stop, stand still, and then you're going to reset it to make sure it wasn't coming from you.
The white button.
The white button. On the right-hand side, there's 3 buttons. The very bottom one is the reset button. Click and release really fast, and it'll reset the fuel. Yep, that's it. So anytime it goes off, you're going to stop, stand still, click and reset, and see if it goes back to the same color.
Okay.
Most people use it right-handed, so that way your thumb is kind of a quick release on it. And then the other thing you can do with it, because it does have an array of color on there, you can ask for a color. Hey Eliza, make the box go to blue. If you get a blue, stop, reset, ask for a different color. Kind of verify that she's responding to you. And again, I will write down like anything that goes like back to a blue, like you stop and reset, and back to like a blue, yellow, purple, anything that's not a green. Just because those little subtle green ones are coming from you. the colors and numbers don't work together. So you might have colors and no numbers, and vice versa. And when I'm doing my rounds at these locations, I'll say, George, any colors or numbers? So you might have both, but you might only have one or the other.
Okay.
So kind of keep that in mind. So again, be expecting of anything between 18 to 22 as a height, but again, you have seen go well over 200. You just never know. All right, have some fun.
Cool,
You're
cool.
all set.
Thank you.
So do I walk around, or do I just kind of keep this pointed at you?
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be on me. You walk around in these spaces when we're at them. I mean, obviously, I'm going to walk with you from time to time. With the camera, I don't always like follow up in real time because I put those on YouTube so I can watch them on a nice big screen.
Gotcha.
When I'm spot checking them, it's a nice big computer screen. But again, just try to have one of us in view at all times just because of our skin tone. And the next space we go to, I'll actually say don't have one of us in there because the brick in there will hang on to the heat, and that way we can actually see it a little bit better. It's a weird space.
Okay.
But yeah, nice slow movements. The slower you go with it, the better. And don't pay attention to the timer. Like the timer will move around a little bit and stop, and you're like, oh no, it's not recording anymore.
Okay.
It's recording. It's, again, the software for that, it's horrible.
Okay,
So-
I gotcha.
But yeah, nice slow movements. The technology of that thing is fantastic. And I've upgraded the camera. I think that's my third upgrade. So that's an LT Pro 1. And I started off at the very base model, and each one keeps getting better and better.
Huh. So it's kind of weird. I mean, it's just like everything was blue and then everything went red.
Right. So I probably left the frame. So let's do a perfect example. Come over to this wall for a second. Kind of show you how this works. Point your camera directly at the wall and don't have anything in this wall besides the wall.
So, okay, like here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So kind of see how it should all be one color. It looks like that's the warmest thing in the picture. Watch when my hand goes into view. Watch the wall.
Yeah, so,
Now my
Everything-
hand is the warmest thing.
yeah, and everything else is okay.
Right, so it's going to fluctuate. So that's why I say the slower the movements, that way when we're watching it, at least, I mean, I watch those things every day, so I kind of know how the law of thermodynamics works through it.
Sure.
That way I can kind of see where the movements are. If I get too much movement, it's like, I can't tell anything, because I don't know
Right.
what's fluctuating, what's not.
Gotcha.
So the slower the better. But luckily we haven't had any issues with it yet. Last night it was all over the place. I had to fix it like 10 times.
Oh,
So it just, because that is a phone, and you
Yeah.
plug it in and out every day,
sure.
it just gets worn down. I replace everything every 6 months. So that's in January. So I'm like, hang in there for 2 more weeks.
Gotcha.
Already had to write one off this year. But yeah, the slower the better. And that's, again, when they're still like that, when I'm doing an investigation, I just set those up in a room and I leave it.
Gotcha.
Wait to see if anything's going to occur. I also use an infrared camera where
Okay.
I use laser sensors
Yeah.
with it to see if there's any motion coming through.
Gotcha.
And I also just set those up and leave the room.
Oh, okay,
So,
I gotcha.
but yeah. Well, actually, that car over there looks like it just got here. The engine's still warm. The one to the left.
Oh, yeah, okay.
If I was a car thief, that would be my first tool.
getting anything?
I got Lord twice, and I got Emancipation.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what radio DJ is saying Emancipation, but
So do you just, is it just like you hear like radio stations and then it just like you hear words in between or something?
well, yeah, it's just like, you know, when you click on the radio
Yeah.
real fast,
Yeah.
it's just, blurbs of radio stations. Like, some are clearly rap, and some are clearly, like, Christian stations. But I don't know where Emancipation would have come from. I'm not sure what radio DJ is talking about Emancipation. Was I supposed to ask questions?
You are, yeah, supposedly, yeah.
Huh.
You are. You know, like the questions like you said,
They're ghosts, they can hear me.
yeah. Yeah. They're talking about you, or you're talking about them.
Oh, what are you thinking about?
Yeah. When you read my mojo, are you going to get jiggy with it?
Hey, you want to ask a question?
Right, say it right there.
Yes. I mean, this one's not recording. It's just whatever I hear.
Hey, Eliza, are you going to get jiggy with it? Are you here? Are you a Republican or a Democrat? I know, I was going to say. Is that Freedom Rock? Party on, dude.
Like listening to this after a while, I'm kind of stroke.
Really? I suppose because it's just a bunch of like,
Oh, you're concentrating so hard.
oh yeah.
It's constantly jerking in between.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, this is a big nothing here, this thing.
Everything's a lot better than I would have thought. Keep the sky out of the viewfinder.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I just try to keep a person in the picture. But
How are we doing on that? Nothing still? So she's like throwing darts at numbers. Like there's a lot of numbers that are just missing the mark on a couple of things.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like nothing's like super like pinpointed, like not even even a stretch of things. Like she's literally like one digit away on certain things. I'm like, yeah, you're just throwing darts. But we do have some really decent EMF readings coming out of George's device. He was actually talking to Charles, trying to get some response out of him, and he was actually getting some high numbers and some decent motion. So again, he's some 22s, he has a 36, so we got him there pretty high. So we're kind of giving him another minute to see if he has anything else, and then I'll bring us back since we're still struggling a little bit with the spirit boxes.
Okay.
One of the reasons why I like to use this as kind of like a starter mode is because it's so active. This way you guys get used to it, and I can show you how the pieces start to fall together.
so maybe part of the story, but other than like the house being here, and did anybody die here? Or
Nope.
just-
Nope. Just a very prominent family of Charleston, you know, lived here, like right on the water. Those buildings wouldn't have been there, so they would have had a water view.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the Pinckney family were always in office in some way, shape, or
Right,
form.
right.
So they were ambassadors and governors. Like, this was
Right.
a pretty big family that not a lot of people talk about.
Gotcha.
What happened to the house?
I haven't told you yet.
Yeah.
What did you hear? But when I start talking, like even about the children, like when I start revealing all the ledgers, you're going to see why I come here because they have such a weird, uncanny story of how it unfolds, and they're very specific things that have happened to them. So, all right, I'm going to follow up with George real quick, and then I'll start reining us back to where we were and kind of see what we got going on.
Alright, last chance for Eliza.
Eliza, where are you? Are you here? You hanging out here? What are you doing?
I don't think you're supposed to ask all those right at once.
Yeah. Am I confusing you?
December 3rd.
I guess are we going to not see you, and not hear you, and not do anything? Yeah, partying around. Shutting Big John's down.
You're supposed to be respectful. They're December 3rd. I don't probably don't mean.
Yeah.
What happened to the house?
Yeah. Eliza, what happened to your house?
The house burned down? The hurricane get you, Eliza?
Is this where they filmed and acted out burning down the house? That's nothing.
Charles, make this place, make the box go to purple. That was a definitive no, wasn't it? Like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's had some like long, steady readings coming out of it. The nice thing is that all of each indicator is a different color, so that way you can ask for a color. Like, hey, show us that you're here by coming to this color. You have to get closer to us and so forth and so on.
I got a December 3rd, but
Yeah, I'm trying not to piss off Chuck.
Yeah, and I'm not getting like numbers at the same time, like you said, as the sound so much.
There's, it's ranging from two different types of electromagnetic fields, so one's static and one's not. So that way you don't get false positives on one or the other. All right, let's go back to the back. If you want to stop your video, give your hand a break. Bob, you can do that. But it's kind of a staple for every ghost tour. Try not to film the tours walking by, so they get a little weirded out because you guys have got the cool stuff and they don't. So they're just walking around hearing stories. What did we hear along the way? Anything?
I heard wanna talk, but that was it.
Want to talk? What do you got?
I just heard like knees, like got me on my knees. It sounded like.
It's actually relevant. So,
Okay.
believe it or not, where did you hear that at? As we were walking in?
Right when we were like turning in.
Perfect. All right. Well, it doesn't get much better than that. You're going to find out that real fast. So, every ghost tour comes down here. This is a staple. This used to be called Dueler's Alley. It sounds like you already know
I've
the
heard
story.
about it, yeah.
So-
I've been here.
So we all tell the same story about the duel because
Yeah.
we can prove that it occurred, but you're going to get a lot more details out of me just because we're ghost hunting. You need those details for the spirit box work. Here's how it goes for those of you that don't know the story, which would be the dads. I kind of like this what we got going on here, by the way. So a doctor moves down here from Rhode Island. His name is Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. His name will show up from time to time in those different formats. Brown, Ladd, Joseph, Doctor, any of those pieces. But he moves down here because he's supposed to get married to his fiancée, Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. She has an attorney helping her out with all of this cash flow. The attorney thinks that the doctor is just after Amanda's money. So he tells Amanda, get rid of the doctor. He comes to Charleston to prove that he's not after her money. The coachman that brought him into town set him up to be robbed and killed. It wasn't a good start to the doctor's stay here. Somebody was watching what was going on, somebody that knew the town pretty well. His name was Ralph Isaacs. I stopped on him for a second because Ralph has the same initials as where the doctor came from. Ralph Isaacs, Rhode Island. I do have a Ouija board, electrical Ouija board in my bag. It is a new device that they just created for ghost hunting. And part of the reason why I bought it was for this location because we were getting RI showing up on different spirit boxes. I was like, oh, let's get it very specific with a Ouija. But anyway, Ralph tells the doctor, dude, I know this guy. He's going to try to kill you. Let me get you somewhere safe. I got some friends at 59 Church Street. I got some friends there. You'll rent a room. You'll be good to go. Dr. Ladd took him up on the offer, and they became friends. The longer the doctor's staying here, everybody hearing that cat, by the way, or is it just me?
I'm hearing it, yeah.
I keep hearing something. Sounds like he's over there.
There it is.
It's freezing to death. But anyway, the longer the doctor stays here, the more money he's making, proving his point that he wasn't after Amanda's money. So he becomes known as the Whistling Doctor because Amanda got wind of this and she's moving down soon so they can get married. Every haunted city you're ever going to visit has a cliched whistling ghost. I'm going to guarantee it right now. We actually have proof of this one and I'm going to get to it. So Ralph and the doctor go see plays together. They can't sit next to each other. Why? The doctor makes more money. He gets better seats. That's just the way things go. They talk about these plays on the way home. One night they went to go see Richard III. They were arguing over the new actress that was here in town. The doctor thought she was fantastic. Ralph, not so much. The argument gets really heated when Ralph starts insulting the doctor's fiancée, Amanda, back home in Rhode Island, and they went their separate ways. Told you that Ralph has friends here. He goes to his friends at the newspaper and tells the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. Kind of a, you're a disgrace to society, sir. That's the mentality of the ad that he places. Dr. Ladd saw the ad and rebutted with, let's go to Dueler's Alley. We're going to settle this. So they came down, they took their 10 paces, they turned, the doctor pointed his gun in the air, and he shot. He did not want to kill his friend. He just wanted to have the courage and bravery to show up to the fight, which is often what happens at a duel. But Ralph has his one bullet. Where do you think he put it?
The knee.
In the knee. Exactly. So he puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. He doesn't die either. Drops to the ground. Ralph proved his point that he's still pissed off, not willing to forgive. The doctor's friends picked him up, took him home to 59 Church Street. He refused medical treatment for about 10 days before he died. Yes. Why did he refuse the medical treatment? He probably tried to bleed out this bullet himself. He's a doctor. So again, he wasn't trying to heal the wound. We're talking about lead poisoning here. This is 1786. So again, those bullets back then were not what we have now. So every ghost tour that comes down here will tell you, you know, you can hear the whistles as you walk through the alley. We're using my voice recorder right now. Do you hear how quiet it is? It's always this quiet, even on a busy Saturday afternoon. We do have some things going on down here that I can't always explain. If you're going to come down here on your own, because I can't take you all the way through this, by the way, and I'm going to explain why. I've been kicked out of here, and that's the fun part of the story. So, yeah, it is the fun part. But anyway, turn on your voice recorders as you walk through here and see if you can listen to it later. Keep in mind, every local knows the story. Anybody walking up and down Cumberland or Queen Street is going to throw a whistle down the alley. I do it every night on my way back to my garage, now that you know where my car is sitting. So again, I pass the alley every single night. I always throw a whistle down just because it's what I do. When my daughter's on the tour, we race to see who's actually going to throw it first. I usually win. So here's how I got kicked out. This is the fun part. This alley didn't go all the way through this end, so it's cut off about halfway between us and Cumberland Street. This is where they kept the livestock for the city of Charleston, which means those bricks down there are older than the bricks on that end. Those are sun-dried bricks from slave children on those bricks down there. There's a full handprint from a slave child and fingerprint swipes off to the left. And I'd always point them out because I'm sure you guys picked up on the fact that I'm all about the history on these tours, right?
Yeah.
So one night, my entire group, November 26th of 2020, they're huddled around that brick with the handprint, waiting for something to happen. Well, I treat that brick the same way I do a grave. That kid's not staring at the brick in the afterlife. I'm also trying to scurry them along because it's outside the dining room window of the beautiful mansion at the end of the alley. I was new at this and didn't really know all my boundaries yet, and the new neighbor thought, I was just hindering around his house, so he come out screaming. My daughter thought it was great. Yes, she was on the tour that night because Dad's getting yelled at. We moved on. The next day was Thanksgiving. I don't tour Thanksgiving because I worked in retail management for over 20 years, and mainly for Walmart. Feel the pain. Yeah. The day after that was November 28th. The dates are very specific. I'm going to get to that too. I get a phone call asking me to go down halfway, which is what we're allowed to do, or to reroute my group. I decided it wasn't fair for my large groups of 10 to be working around 20 to 60, which is normally what's down here in the middle of summer. I rerouted my group and told them I didn't really believe in the story we were about to go talk about because normally I went that way, so my whole route had to change. I'm a vampire guy, not a pirate person. So they were like, all right, we'll go see what happens. So before we left, somebody heard the name Anne on a spirit box. I did not tell that group we were going to be investigating the female pirate Anne Bonny. So I was kind of like, shit. Now I got to learn about pirates and see what's actually going to happen. We get up there, and somebody else heard the number 300. I don't know what that means in relation to the story. I do the research the next day. We were there November 28th of 2020. Anne Bonny's trial for piracy, November 28th of 1720. We were there on the exact 300-year anniversary of her pirate trial like it was meant to be. So I keep taking you guys back up there in hopes we're going to discover more. Worst case scenario, because it is a hit or miss location, you guys are going to learn a lot of weird things about pirates that you didn't even know about before. There's a lot of research that had to go into this because it's pirate lore. Again, having to read multiple resources to make sure what we're talking about is factual as possible. Again, we're talking about the early 1700s. I am going to write down these as we leave the location because I'm super excited that actually showed up, which means something else is probably going to show up as well. Again, we don't spread out in this location just because of what it actually is. It's an alley. But before we leave the space, the door behind me, I always explain what this actually is, which is why I stopped here. Remember that the alley didn't go all the way through. In the event there was a loser to the duel, a dead guy, this was the shortcut to get to the cemetery on the other side of the wall. Otherwise, they'd have to go all the way down to Queen Street and come back down around with the dead body, and that's heavy, and that's going to delay any drinking and celebrating of the winter. So the wrought iron wasn't there, but the archway was. So there's a courtyard on this side now, and it would be open to that cemetery during those times. So again, I love this gate. Not many people know why it's actually here. So now you have a fun little nugget when you do bring other people down here. Any other crazy things about dueling that I might be able to answer? Any crazy things you've heard, seen on your cameras? Any numbers show up for you? A whole lot. You guys were all focused on me during this part, weren't you? Yeah.
Well, I think anything over like a 2 or 3.
Yeah, and that's usually coming from the building of the lights. So I would say anything over a 6 in this location I'd be excited about, just because of where we're at. All right, we're going to go up and around the corner. If you want to continue recording, we're going to be in a popular space area anyway because of the other tours, if there is going to be anybody out. But again, just don't point it directly at them.
Sure.
But anything else coming out of yours?
No, it was pretty clear though when it said like
Hands on my knees.
part. Yeah.
I love it. It's not the first time we've heard that lyric here. Oh, by the way, the whistling part, we might not catch it here, but those song lyrics you guys are hearing, we've heard just whistling parts that have come through. So Guns N' Roses' Patience, the Maroon 5 Moves Like Jagger, there's whistling in there. It's just whistling, and we've got it while we've been in this alley. So several times, and it's not coincidence that we keep getting it over and over and over again. All right, let's go learn some crazy things about pirates.
Nothing.
So hard to like listen to this.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's like really hard to focus on one or the other. At least for me.
That was me excited, by the way. Stuff like that shows up, like we can't make that stuff up. All right, so anything crazy coming up I need to write down?
I got make a gift.
Make a
I
gift.
feel like I heard 80.
3-3.
You're gonna get 3 to 5s while we're standing in this corner. Electrical pole right there.
Yep.
Just so you know. 80, very interesting number. All right, so welcome to the Powder Magazine. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this building
I've
or
been
not.
around. I've never been inside of it.
It's a museum now. Pretty cool, actually. We're here because of the crosses that are on there. Those are not crosses. Those are earthquake bolts. Remember we talked about the big earthquake that we had earlier? Those things don't actually work. An earthquake bolt is basically a turnbuckle. So in the event we have another earthquake, which we haven't, at least not like what we had in 1886, you can turn the turnbuckles afterwards to stop the building from incurring any further damage. At least that was the idea behind it. Again, it doesn't work. It's a good idea. The reason I bring these up is because this is the first set of earthquake bolts that Charleston put in. Very first. Why? This is the oldest government building in South Carolina. This is finished in 1713. keep in mind I said government building. It's not the oldest building we have in Charleston. So it's just the oldest government building. Served in 7 different wars and 1 rebellion. So very interesting space, but we're here because this building is what I call a familiar. Anne Bonny actually came to the Charleston area at the same time that this building was being built. So that's why this place is a hit or miss, because she is said to be seen all over town. This is kind of like using a toy to attract a child ghost. It's the same type of principle, so that's why I call this a familiar. Follow me, there's a lot of twists in Anne's story. This building took 10 years to build. Does that sound like our government? Small building, 10 years? No. Come on. Just didn't say it out loud. So
Don't know who's listening.
I know, right? Well, we are recording everything. 1708 is where the story actually begins, right in the middle of its construction. Young lady moves here from Ireland. Her name is Anne Cormac. She comes here with her father and his mistress. The mistress is Anne's mother. Are you guys with me so far? I say this part slowly because it can be very confusing. The 3 of them are running away from her father's angry wife. You guys got that? Yeah,
Your
big
first
scandal.
one.
Yeah, big scandal that I can go on for another 45 minutes because it's that big. But anyway, they land in Georgetown. By the way, how angry was that wife that she had to leave Ireland by boats to come here in 1708, saying she's pretty pissed. Anyway, Georgetown. Dad bought a plantation. Mom died pretty quickly. That means he's sending young Anne down here to sell anything from the plantation and keep things afloat, hence the familiar building. So, young Anne back home in Ireland was said to be a badass. They say she killed one of her servants when she was only 7, 8, 9 years old. Remember, it's pirate lore, no accurate numbers here. So, with a knife to the belly. That's a servant girl when she was only 9 years old, at the oldest. So very kind of a hardcore chick. Fast forward. Building's done in 1713. By 1715, pirates were coming through town, and Anne is stoked. She's about 16, 17 years old at this time. She's going to fall in love, so that way she can earn her freedom, just like a man. It's a man's world at this point. So, guy number 1. I said number 1 because there's a handful, and we're going to go through them. It's a very interesting tale. James Bonny. You can already see where this one's going because we've already mentioned Anne's full married name. Dad didn't approve because he's a filthy pirate. They ran away to Jamaica, they got married. Anne Cormac is now Anne Bonny, the famous female pirate. However, James Bonny is not the Captain Jack Sparrow that she was hoping for. This guy is a privateer. He's a spy for the British. This is not who she wants. He's a coward. So a few years later, she falls in love again. Guy number 2. John Rackham, a.k.a. Calico Jack. This is literally the person they based your Captain Jack Sparrow character off of. So this is the guy. He has his own ship and wants to be part of the crew of that ship. Can't put a girl on a pirate crew. Anybody know why?
Bad luck.
Thank you. I've seen where some of those chuckles were going. I usually get one of 2 answers. But anyway, this is bad luck. So he makes a deal with her. If you dress like a guy and look like the crew, you could be part of the crew, but you're going to be a female in my quarters. She's okay with this because Dad used to cross-dress her as a boy back home in Ireland to hide her away from his wife. So she's like, whatever, let's do it. Let's put 2 and 2 together. She's a female in his quarters. She's eventually going to get pregnant. You can't have a pregnant pirate dude on the crew. Somebody's going to figure out that she's a girl.
Well, now you could, right?
No, yeah, just depends. We're going to get to that. So, he drops her off in Cuba before she starts to show. So, have the baby over here. These are friends of mine. They'll help you out. Come back later. We'll figure it out. She goes and has the baby, but returns with no baby. I have no idea what happened to the child. No amount of research can actually dig it up. The irony part of the story is that she comes back dressed as a female. Now, Jack's crew is going to know that he let a girl on the ship. So, this makes Jack pretty angry, and while she was away giving birth to his child, that we don't know what happened to it, he captured another pirate crew. They're down below deck. She's going to go flirting with that crew just because she wants to make Jack even more mad because that's who she is. We're on guy number 3. Guy number 3 turns out to be a female, dressed like a guy, to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack captured. So her name is Mary Reed. She went by Mark Reed to become a pirate. Her and Mary become friends, possibly lovers, we don't really know for sure, but the British found out where they are. They send a fleet of ships to take down the one pirate ship. Rumor had it, Anne and Mary were the only 2 pirates not drunk enough to come up and fight with their 1-bullet flintlocks. Obviously, 2 ladies with 1-bullet guns are not going to take on a fleet of ships. They probably don't know how to use the cannons yet, haven't been pirates for very long. They get arrested, and as they're being arrested, she looks at her captain, her beau, Calico Jack, and she says, "You should have fought like a man instead of being hanged like a dog." The word dog shows up here a lot. We've even heard barking on your spirit boxes as we enter the space. Can't make this stuff up, guys, I promise you. The judge, he wants to see the 2 quote-unquote men that fought back so valiantly after he's already tried and hung Calico Jack and the drunk pirates that wouldn't fight. They're already dead and gone. 2 ladies go in front, reveal their gender, hoping to save themselves. He doesn't care that they're female. They're still pirates. So he's still going to hang them. "We plead our bellies," was the last thing they screamed out, trying to save themselves one last time, because you can't hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. So he sends them both back to jail, delays the hanging. Dad is still up here in South Carolina with all of his Irish money. He bails out Anne, brings her back home. She remarries. That's husband number 2, but guy number 4. We're gonna count Mary. We don't really know. She has 4 kids, dies at the age of 84. Yes, very abrupt ending because we don't know much about her after her pirate career. Mary Read died a year later in 1721 in that Jamaican jail from whatever pirates die from in a Jamaican jail. Most articles will tell you that it was fever. Yeah, I'm going to call BS on that one and say it was scurvious and nasty and gross. Make it romantic, right? So, 2 things I left out of here because you guys are getting the gist of how to ask questions with your spirit boxes. I'm not going to give you a whole plethora of questions like what we did before. I left out the name of Anne Bonny's parents. So you can ask, that's the father and the mistress. You can ask the names of those 2 people or the name of Calico Jack's ship. I also left that out on purpose, the one that she was actually part of. So George, with yours, you're going to turn on that motion sensor again. That's the antenna first, then the white button. And you're going to be asking Anne Bonny to have her show you her hair color. Because again, this is one of the spaces that I've gotten a red out of that particular motion sensor. I wouldn't expect a whole lot of numbers, just because of the way the space is set up. The closer you get to these bushes, the higher the numbers are going to go, again, between a 3 to a 6. You having trouble? You need me to get it?
There you go.
Perfect. So again, if you get numbers, I'll be excited, especially like on the back half of this space. If you want to stay up here close to the powder magazine, you can do that. Have we heard anything before we kind of separate a little bit?
I heard Christmas and darling.
Christmas and darling. Yeah, you're going to need a lot of reset in here, it looks like. I want you to also keep in mind that we could also get bleed over from the dueling story. So you might hear things about the doctor over here as well because it was literally across the street. So again, that's what I call bleed over. We may have gotten pirate things while we were over there. And it works the same way with Pinckney and Big John's. So again, we're a little too far away for that. Wow, that thing's going absolutely berserk. Christmas and Durham. Did you hear anything on your end?
Not really.
Alright, let's get them cranked up and let's see if we can find out in this space. I'm not going to count anything until we can get that thing to be stable.
Yeah, I just reset it again.
Let's see what we can gather.
So I reset it. Hopefully it's not now.
So that camera loves to act up in here. Let's say about a year ago.
What was I asking her again?
What her hair color was. The answer is red, just so you know. One night I had just one couple using that camera, and then actually the device that Christine's using. And I'm standing next to the person with the spirit box. The other person's filming the 2 of us. A white film went over the young lady with the spirit box, and it stopped working.
Huh.
And then we left that small little part of the lot, which was actually up in there, and it kicked right back on again, but it was already on record, and there was no interruption in the recording.
Gotcha.
It was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen.
Huh.
So it was kind of like we could see the energy coming
Yeah.
through there, and I hate using that term.
Right.
But because it's so generic,
Yeah.
but you could see it, and then the whole thing just stopped. It was weird.
Huh.
But we've seen that, and that happened one night, and then it kind of glitched. It's kind of in the same fashion. It didn't shut the other spirit box completely down, but it did cause it to skip a little bit.
Gotcha.
So weird. But yeah, you're like the best cameraman ever. I have to give you a job later.
I was gonna say I heard girl like when we were up there. It was Madonna. Okay, I heard that.
say, like my mother-in-law, like she's dyed some purples, like weird colors.
Anything?
A couple things. I heard dog.
Really?
You want to listen? I asked what happened to your kid, and I heard local fleet. Ask a question.
What happened to you? Are you here?
Did you hear that?
Are you here?
What are the names of your parents?
What are the names of your parents?
What happened to your kid?
What happened to your children? What happened to Mary? Dude,
Like, did you love Mary?
did you love Mary? Were you and Mary lovers?
I said, baby.
What pronouns did you go by?
All right, what do you two got going on?
I heard dog for sure.
Did you?
Yeah, right
Nice.
away. And then rape came up,
Oh,
which was kind of scary. And then I
Wow.
said, what happened to your son? And it said local fleet. But yeah, dog was the first thing that came up.
I'm sure there was a whole lot of rape going on. I mean,
Pirates?
I mean, even in Nassau,
I'm sure.
you know, I'm sure
Yeah.
there weren't many females there at all besides
Yeah.
prostitutes.
Yeah.
So,
It's like, well, that's a scary word to come up.
yeah, but again, it's relevant. I mean, we know what happened. There's
Yeah,
no
I'm
like,
sure it did.
there's no documentation of it. 'Cause it's not like they were reporting it. You know, there's no Me Too
Well,
movement.
they don't care, no.
Yeah. So,
So how did they come up with the concept of like scanning like FM bands for I mean,
it's the way the
This-
signal pops up. So with it coming through as just static, you know, there's
Yeah.
all kinds of different types of noise,
Right.
white, brown,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
all of
Right,
those things.
right.
So the white noise is basically the static. I hate again that word energy, but they use it
Yeah.
as static energy to be able to communicate back. And what they realized is they were getting a lot of that radio chatter, but it was making sense even on the faster sweeps. So again, with beginner methods, I realize it is way easier for people that have never done this to go to the slowest sweep possible and learn to progress with it. So again, when I'm doing an investigation, I want on my own, one slow, one fast, and I record both of them, and I see what matches up, and then I do the research on the space that I'm investigating. So that way I remain, you know, unbiased. So that way I can I don't know
right.
what I'm looking for.
right.
And that's usually how I run things. But I always run a word generator, you know, like with on the phone to kind of see if that all matches up. I will run as many communication devices as I possibly can. But that slower method that's based on, or the just, you know,
Yeah.
using that as
Right,
white, it's the
right.
white noise is really what the concept is. But we do get disembodied voices on this tour too, meaning it's not the radio chatter. I actually use audio editing software to see how many stations it went over,
Yeah.
so I can verify
Right.
that it's legit, not a radio station. So we have caught quite, you know, I'd say a good that are I can actually understand. I would say
Yeah.
probably about 6 or 7 in the 3 years that I've been out here, you know, teaching people how to do this. You know, again, it's not 12 an episode like the BS they show you on
Well, no.
TV. I mean, that's and half of it is gobbledygook.
Well,
anyway.
right. I mean, that's
I mean,
Go-
I
you know.
only look for things that are
Oh,
perfectly
we have seen like every episode of like Ghost Adventures, and it's
Yeah.
just
Well,
like
that's
what in
entertaining.
you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
exactly.
But when things are showing up that are relevant to these spaces on a nightly basis,
Yeah.
and again,
On multiple
Yeah.
things.
right, and I do rate with a score every investigation,
Yeah.
so that way we can kind of see
Yeah.
what's going on. You know, that way it's weird. You'll see the rating system when you guys get your data back tomorrow. But last night was probably the lowest score I've seen in a long time,
Right.
and that's because they showed up almost disrespectful. So that's the
Yeah.
way I have to look at that.
Yeah.
And it's not that I wasn't looking for the stuff in my spot checks; it just wasn't
Yeah,
there.
it was distracting.
Yeah. Well, the ghost don't want to put up with that. I mean, the prominent English woman,
Yeah.
she doesn't want to be disrespected that way. Pirates, you can get away with that, but
Right.
all right. Let me follow up with Kate again and see what she's got, and then we'll pull together again.
Bunch of trees over there.
Huh.
Trees over there.
I like Anne Bonny's story. I always thought her story was really cool.
Yeah, I think I've heard that one before.
Yeah, she's a real famous one. There's a hair salon in West Ashley named after her now.
Really?
Yes. Oh, that was weird. He was like, on the. That was like a long, like.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I don't get is of course, I mean, I mean, it's like you flip through a radio, right? You're going to hear all these
Yeah.
words.
Well, that's
And
why I
how do
think
you know
he's-
it's not
Looking for something relevant, but then you also have your own bias.
right?
It's just like you want to hear something. So it's
Exactly.
Like, well, if I hear the word rape, I'm like, well, she was a woman on a pirate ship. It could be rape. You know.
Right.
I mean,
Or they could be talking about a crime that happened in town. You're just looking at so and so was raped last night, or there was a rape reported in blah blah blah, and you're just catching.
well, I guess that's where it's, you know, if it shows up on Horrors 2 or
Yeah.
it's fine.
I told you about the creepy stuff that happened in Sparks' house, didn't I? I mean, that was the weirdest stuff, you know. And there was nothing to explain that. It was physical stuff too.
So did you get a chance to listen to that with her for a minute?
I did, yeah, but not for very long.
Yeah, it's not easy to
Yeah.
do. Anything else crazy?
Yeah, doctor.
Oh, see there?
Yeah.
All right, so let's head over back to the wall. I did get an interesting term on, well, two of them on my word list, but she's got a bunch of like female gender terms. Let's head back over to the wall. See if we can get pretty purple. Yeah, that or you brought somebody with you. That happens too.
Check my baggage.
You're under your hat.
Well, I know it's not my hair.
funny thing is we're going to Washington Square next. So again, that thing loves to do predictions in the sense of it'll normally give me. That's like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Blinker when he first goes off and annoys the. That's exactly what it sounds like.
Oh, just a George.
Did it really?
Yes.
Did it?
Yes.
Washington.
George
Knows where
Washington.
we're going. You heard. What was the other term you heard?
Before,
Yeah.
I heard doctor, and I heard dog, and I heard rape.
Yeah, I got dog. You got anything else coming out of yours before I put the pen and paper away? So I'm excited about the doctor piece. I obviously want more to go along with it.
Yeah.
But when I say like the spirit boxes will predict, a lot of times it'll tell me the nationality of a person on my next tour along with their name. Like it is the weirdest thing. So it's not like it'll be like Jose and Filipino will show up like 2 stops later. I'm like okay, and then I don't know who's on my next tour until that morning when I text you guys.
Sure.
So again, it's not like I keep track of that stuff until that day.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I can't remember your guys' names from night to night. And we did get the word love that showed up on my word list as well. Very vague, but we were talking about the many lovers of Anne
Oh,
Bonny.
we got that too when you were
Yeah.
listening. Yeah, we got love too.
So we did get Girls Just Want to Have Fun and Material Girl that showed up. And yes, I know their song lyrics, but they are relevant to the space. And the fact that, we were just talking about Girls Just Want to Have Fun because that's a common thing that we hear at this location. I'm excited about those. I'm surprised you guys didn't get anything about like the baby. The word baby will show up here a lot too. One of the few pictures you can find of Anne Bonny with her shirt on. The reason why is because she used to bare her breast to show men that they were just killed by a woman. Yeah, I told you she was a badass. And I get teenage boys on this tour, and I don't need angry moms. So, obviously, her hair color is red. The other thing relative to the doctor at this point, and I'm going to look for another clue. I got the word yellow that showed up as soon as we came over here. The house that the doctor stayed in is called the Thomas Rose House. It is a giant yellow house. So again, sometimes we do get the word rose and yellow together, just to kind of verify. But back to Anne Bonny. The names of her parents, William Cormack, Mary Brennan. You guys weren't expecting a secondary Mary. No, that wasn't another subliminal trick. It's just one of those things where everybody was named Mary in the 1700s. And again, the father and the mistress scandal, like that's another 30 to 45 minutes. So again, we're not even going to get into that because there's a whole lot going on there. Anyway, Calico Jack. This is the guy that they based your Johnny Depp character off of. Everybody wants to see it. Calico Jack was named that because of his jackets that he wore. They came from the British captains that he killed. Textiles were important to him because his father was a tailor. So Calico Jack, fancy jacket. It's basically where the name comes from. The name of his ship was called the Kingston. We don't get the word Kingston often on the radio, but the word king would actually suffice in this location. Again, I would have to get something else to verify that, or a direct response of, hey, what was the name of Jack's ship? And you heard king, I would be good with that. But I would, if you didn't get it in direct relation, it would be the word ship, crew, something else that relates to the word Kingston to go along with it. But everybody wants to see what they base Johnny Depp off of, and this is not what they expect. That's the funny thing. There's a lot of pirate lore around town. Like there's even Blackbeard lore around here. His men used to stay at the pirate house while he kind of manned the ships. Never set foot on our land. Even he raided our town here just because he needed medicine because he has syphilis from one of his 14 wives. Like there's a whole big mess of pirate stuff that goes on here in Charleston. And there's an actual pirate tour that'll go through all of those details. Again, I feel like we had a little bit of success here. I mean, we had some rem going on. We heard some definitely some female gender terms. You can stop your video, give it a break for a little. His story is normally told at the Charleston Library Society, so I was really surprised to find clues to him here. What we had was his exact year of birth, 1821, and his first name, Henry, and his part of his last name, Timrod. We had the name Tim show up the same evening, the very first night I was here. So it's kind of like all right, this is kind of, I've heard this before, but I need to look it up and see what's legit. This is Henry Timrod, like I said, but he actually lived through the Civil War. He, obviously born here in Charleston, wanted to fight for the Confederacy, but he was sick through most of his life, a good portion of it anyway. When he got to the battlefield, his comrades realized he was too sick to fight, so they sent him home, and they said, go be the voice of the war. They knew he was a writer and a poet. So he went home and he started writing about what was going on in the battlefield and what was going on in the hearts and minds of those Charlestonians that were facing the war. He became known as the Laureate of the Confederacy, so he is a pretty big deal. However, a couple of weird things about this guy. He lost his son at a very young age. You guys are going to hopefully find that out from your spirit boxes. I'm also not going to tell you his name either, and it's not like William and Charles and George's, like what we've been hearing earlier. It's a very specific name. We've heard it here in the past. The weird thing about this guy's death is he died at the age of 38. His college friend, called him up and said, you know what, you've been going through a rough time. You lost your son a few years ago. You still need to write for the publication you're working for. Why don't you come out to my cottage in Columbia, and you can actually write out here in peace. He goes out there, and he's writing at the desk, the whole cottage to himself, and he writes his last words. Beholder of brief mortality, meaning person of short life. And he coughs, and the blood lands on the page, staining it. He had tuberculosis through a good portion of his life. So, that blood stain lands on the page, and it looks like a man writing over a desk. They call this the Blood Book, and they only show it one day a year at the Charleston Library Society. So they show it on Halloween, of all days, right? His entire collection is over there. All of his poetry, all of his writing is at the Charleston Library Society. I'm going to show you the Blood Book, and that way you can actually see why we're actually here. A few weeks ago, I had one of my guests brought one of them stick figure cameras. You guys know what I'm talking about? I don't have one because we're actually upgrading into a different style, but those things are giant. Obviously, the bag isn't going to hold it. But we had a full 8-minute interaction with Henry, standing right here. If it's okay for me to read the last stanza of your poem, Henry, raise your right hand. You got to raise the right hand, and then it drops. If it's okay for us to do this, raise your left hand. Raise his left hand, and he drops. A woman from the tour goes over to the side of this wrought iron fence and reaches her hand over, and she says, Henry, do you want to shake my hand? And he disappeared. You have to remember the time that he came from. It was probably disrespectful for a female to go up and offer her hand to be shook. So again, couldn't get him back on the stick camera. And we checked all angles to make sure it was legit, and it wasn't coming from the wrought iron. It was legit. We had a full figure, and I went around, so that way we had a point of reference, because it'll pick up real people too. It's very interesting. But anyway, this is the Blood Book. So you can see how the blood stain looks like a man writing. And the very last line reads, Beholder of brief mortality. And the irony is, he died on that page. Yikes. So what I normally do from here, just to kind of stir things up again, because this guy, he's a shy, short little man. He's a writer, just like me, so he's very timid. I like to read the last stanza of his poem called Charleston, and just kind of hopefully that'll trigger a few things to get things rolling, because this does take a few minutes for us to start getting interaction from him, and we'll kind of take it from there, and I'll let you guys know what to expect. We know not in the temple of the fates, God has inscribed her doom. Notice he puts God as a female, which is very interesting. And all untroubled in her faith she waits, the triumph or the tomb. This was written in 1862, right in the middle of the Civil War. It's basically stating that Charleston waits the fate of the war to see if they're going to triumph or fall. So, triumph or the tomb has shown up here in the past, verified on spirit boxes. Again, those are two very specific terms. Your box, George, I've seen it go into triple digits at this location, well over 100. And it is in various locations of grassy knolls around the whole park. Keep in mind, it is a cold night. We might see a homeless person or two, just kind of stay out of their way, and again, avoid eye contact if they're only asking for money. I hate to be that way, but we're working. But again, we'll see what we can find. We're going to basically know what's going on, based on George's device. We have gotten weird things. Oh, the other question you can ask, other than the son's name, the son's birthday is very specific, and the wife's name. So we've gotten all of those things right here at this location. I am excited at the fact that we had Washington come in. That's the monument we passed when we came in. That's George over there. So you're in Washington Park. So again, lots of weird things have happened here. Let's see what we can capture. Let's definitely get some footage on your end, Bob. So,
Okay.
All right, let's do this. Last stop. Let's have some fun. Wow, that thing is unstable with him. When he first gets it going, huh? So that stick figure camera, we actually, them big ones they show you?
Oh, yeah. You see them on, all the...
We found one that works better because of the technology of it. I've been doing some research. And you can put it on an iPad. And based on the technology of the iPad, it actually works pretty well. So this is the same one, but it'll only be in 2D. So it should pick up. Oh, we're not close enough to somebody. They usually have to be within about 15 feet or so. Let's see if it'll pick her up. But normally you'll see like the mapping show up. Yeah, she's too far away. But yeah, we had a full 8-minute interaction right here. I mean, it was crazy.
Have you ever had any like physical interaction or manifestation of anything?
Sure. Like where I've seen things and caught it on film?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I'm out here every night.
Yeah, the creepiest thing, like I told her when I was in high school, my best friend, they lived in a house where a girl that was about the same age as us, high schooler, died of cancer in the basement.
Okay.
And it was in the back bedroom in the basement. And so you'd go in the back there, and there's this hall where the bedroom was. And then it kind of went to the end, and there was a closet there. And just the creepiest stuff just always happened in this basement. Like lights would go out, electricity would go out, that kind of thing. And over a series of nights, like we were there, like we were sitting like in the living room and down the hall, and there was this, down the hall was the bedroom. It had this like just low pile carpet, and there's a concrete slab, so the floor was really hard. And be sitting there watching TV, and out of this hall, coins would come rolling down the hall out into the living room where we were.
What kind of coins?
So like Indian head pennies. I mean, things like this old coins that come, like physically like rolling out.
Nice.
Like where did these things like come from? And of course, there's nobody there. I mean, it's just me and my friend.
Wow.
And then probably the weirdest thing that happened, we were down there one night, and had lights on, TV was going or whatever, and we had candles going too. So electricity, and we had candles. And at the same time, all the lights went out, all the electricity went out, and all the candles blew out all at the same time.
Yeah, that's odd.
And it was just so weird. And so throughout kind of all these years of just going on this stuff, I've never seen anything. And it's not like we were looking for it. It's not like we were trying to communicate with her or anything like that. But, just kind of all these years of just being in these places, being on tours and stuff, I've never seen anything like that.
So movement, and I've seen apports actually happen, and a port is something that actually shows up out of thin air, like something like you're rolling pennies.
Right.
I was working on a book, which is actually how I got started in investigating. I was working with a psychic, and we went to, it was Brentwood Restaurant, Little River, South Carolina, and we went up the steps, and he's getting his feels on everything and doing what he needs to do. No equipment.
Right.
We come back down the steps, and there was, what was it that was on there? It was a very specific item on the step. And it, like, even the owner didn't recognize it. Like, it was a piece of something. Like, something broke off.
Wow.
But again, in a port is, again, something that just shows up out of thin air. We didn't hear it fall. It was a hard piece of something that should have hit the wood, a step. And,
Gotcha.
But didn't hear anything while we were up there. And when we come down the steps, there it was. Right on, I can't remember what it was, though. It was a while ago. That was 10 years ago. Which is really when I was beginning the investigation.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But I remember as a kid, your story kind of reminded me of like what really got me going on like what's out there.
I mean, it's just kind of weird. I mean, it's kind of made me wonder. I mean, my entire lifetime about this kind of stuff, and
we had video in my house that I grew up in. I'm probably 7, 8 years old. My father was a rock singer, so he was out on the weekends all the time, and my mom went to one of his gigs, and it's just us 3 kids at home. My sister's up in a room, and me and my brother are downstairs, and the old basement lights up north where they click.
Oh, yeah.
We heard that click.
Oh, yeah.
And the dog barked downstairs because he had to stay in the basement while my parents were gone. So we heard him bark, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So we went and we shut the light off, heard it click again, go back to the living room, clicked up again. My brother looks at me, he's like, where's Gina? That was our sister. I was like, she's upstairs. So he went up to go check, grabbed Dad's video camera, put the camera up.
Yeah.
We had that it's on a VHS tape somewhere. We actually have it
where the
raising and clicks to turn up.
And nobody's there. Yeah.
Nobody's there.
Wow.
We're the only ones home. So that was kind of the start.
I bet, yeah.
Of like really what's out there. And I was raised Orthodox.
So
you can't talk about these things with, your mom and dad.
Well, yeah. I mean, at the time that was happening, my friend and I, we actually became born-again Christians at that time. And of course, I mean, there's no such thing as ghosts. People don't have the power to come back. I mean, it's obviously the devil, Satan, or whatever, trying to,
That's
exactly
the stories that I hear.
How that goes.
Yeah, I still get that lecture from Mom every once in a while when I'm talking to her.
Yeah.
She's thrilled that I finally found something that makes me happy and I'm doing well for myself. But she doesn't understand the work. She's always curious about like my psychics, the mediums and stuff that I have. And she's always curious about it, but she always says, I still can't believe you're doing this as you know, your livelihood. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, this is what I went to school for. I'm
Right.
a writer. I'm a storyteller.
Yeah,
Look at
right.
it that way. I'm teaching people history in a different light.
Yeah.
You know, she's like,
That's the
"But
part I think I like about it the most. I majored in history and political science in college.
Oh, cool.
I love the history and
I
politics.
actually
And
started a master's in public history, and I just couldn't get into it, like
Yeah.
as much as I thought I was going
Yeah.
to. So I got a hold of my school, and I'm like, do I really need another master's degree? Like, I got a lot going on with the business. So
Yeah, right.
I'm going to stick to what I'm doing. But it was just kind of when I can't tour
Yeah.
anymore.
Right,
Something to
right.
fall back on. Christine, what do you got on there?
I keep getting 5 over and over and over again. I've gotten 5 like 4 times.
Anything else?
No, I keep getting 5s.
Okay. All right, I want to follow up with George because he's really he should be
Beep it
the
all the time.
Yeah.
he should be the star right now
Yeah.
because that thing should be going nuts. All right, continue talking. What do we got?
I'm cool.
yeah.
5 oh, I got 5. I got 1 oh 5 5.
I remember this guy's name. Go look him up. Henry Timrod, was it?
I think so. Something Tim. Just look up Blood Book.
Yeah.
It's like that's hella creepy and depressing.
Yeah.
Died for your art, I guess.
Well, I mean, tuberculosis, right? I mean, of course, the lifespan of that was never.
Yeah, but to die while you're writing
Yeah.
that.
No. I certainly haven't seen anything on this deal all night long.
Should be watching a statue over there. Oh my gosh, I just got 5 again.
Really? Huh.
What the heck? really likes numbers over here. He's putting out a lot of numbers.
Really?
Got 2, a 0, a 1. And then I got down, down, down.
Need to ask how he gets hours worth of video off of this and uploads it onto the internet.
Well, everything or that is Corvus running this whole time.
besides fives?
20, 20, and 15. Another 5. A lot of 5s. I don't know why.
So we had crazy EMF going on over there, well over 100.
Wow.
Several readings over 100. Remember, your microwave runs about 150 to 170.
Maybe
So-
156.7, I think was our high.
158.7.
158.7.
So lots going on there. Yeah, you could